say we were good together. I would say we had fun, but our trails will never run forever. Something else is on your mind, like everything that's good in life always comes to an end. We're letting go, drifting apart. There's no use trying to pretend. And I know that it's over. Got the look on your face. It's so hard to explain, but the worst is the pain when you pronounce my name. And you say, Gloria, please don't cry for me. Oh, Gloria, please don't cry for me. Yeah. I can hurt you like you hurt me too. Then we make love when we are done. Breaking up and then get back together. Oh, you're the trigger to my gun. But like everything that's bad in life, it's come to an end. We're letting go, drifting apart. There's no use trying to pretend. And I know that it's over. Got the look on your face. It's so hard to explain, but the worst is the pain when you're breathing out my name. Gloria, please don't cry for me. Don't cry for me. Gloria, please. Oh, Gloria, please don't cry for me. Why do everything that's good in life always come to an end? We're letting go, drifting apart. There's no use trying to pretend. I know that it's over. Got a look on your face. But the worst is the pain when you pronounce my name. And you say, Gloria, please don't cry for me. Oh, Gloria, please don't cry for me. Don't cry for me. Oh, yeah. I would try. No, yeah, to cry. Gloria, Gloria, please. When you pronounce my name, oh, Gloria, please don't cry for me. Yeah.
Welcome. So we're back. Let me just check that this is right. So hi, everyone. Welcome to our usual Friday show. Looking forward to seeing everyone today and going through a few stories with you all. So excited all about that. Can't wait to get through everything with you all today. So a few people saying hello. So let's go through that just for a little bit. So we're sort of in a little bit of pre-show, and then I'm going to start the show. I'm just trying StreamYard today, so it's going to be interesting. Let me know if the audio and everything is in sync and working. It's a bit funny because I look at it on the screen and the audio looks like it's out, but I'm hoping it's not. Who knows? So yeah, Thursday show, Friday show for me. So let's see who's here. We've got Oreo is in here as well. So early bird gets the worm. Exactly. Langston was here really nice and early this morning. So he is nice and early as well. Gilbert, I loved it. Gilbert said he was going to bed, not now. Oh, let me put that back again. Sometimes it zooms in with this mouse. It's the Apple mouse. Let's have a look to Long Rider is saying he thought I was going to go to Canon. Laugh out loud. Andre's saying hello. Kelvin is also saying hello from Boston. Greetings from captivity in SW, Ontario. And Anthony's also saying morning all as well. I'm DeBrown's here. Andre's got an interesting comment too, saying that Sony has a big couple of months coming up. Well, it looks like it, doesn't it? And that's going to be mostly the story today that we're going to talk about. Carol's here as well. G'day, Carol. Nice to see you here. Now that's down. Yep. What else? What's this one? Saying hey from Toronto, Canada. I'm loving the 7180. Well, why wouldn't you? I mean, you can't go wrong with that. That's for sure. Woody's saying, greetings, everyone. Sending my best love to you from Oregon. Good video in sync for me. Okay, yeah, so it's just looking like it's out for me here as well. Don't know what that means, but I hope it's something nice. I love it. Michelle is here as well. Hello, everyone. Good evening. David saying hi, David and friends as well. And we've got down here Seattle is here as well. Now, we are dead on time. Let me just check. Yep, we are. So what I wanted to do, first of all, today, let me just quit this so I can get that out the way. Now, all my American friends are going through a pretty tough time at the moment. So what I wanted to do, I'm not going to talk about the political side or anything like that, but I've just got something that I wanted to share with you all. So if we can, I'd love it if we could have a minute's silence. I'm going to bring up something in a second that I've been allowed to share. So if we could have a minute's silence just to play respect. Let me just start this so I can bring this up. I'm just going to share the screen and let's have a minute silent on this. So you'll be able to read what it's about and I won't have to say any more. So I'll start the minute silence now. Okay, so that's all I'm going to say on that. So let's get back into the show. So let me bring up something here. Now, thank you too, by the way, for that was Dan Lacey gave me permission to share that drawing that he'd done or that painting, which was just beautiful. So thank you so much, Dan. And let me now bring up the intro to this show. I'm just trying this thing today on StreamYard just to see how we go with it, but let me bring up the start, open with QuickTime, and then let me just share this and we'll start the show in full. So let me go here and let me go application window and share. If you're looking for some crazy, I'll tell you everybody's standing in a line for the water slide. You can come on over. We can take the roller coaster. You know everybody's looking for a ride in the water slide. Water slide. Surfing on a wave of good feelings. I'm still learning how to use this. I love it. I couldn't get it back. G'day, everyone. Welcome to the show. There's not many news stories today, but there's a couple of real beauties that we can show. There's a couple of stories just to sort of give you a preempt of. You can click the link down below, and I've got everything listed in the time. There's only really two main stories today, so it's going to be interesting from that point of view. We're going to talk about a couple of Sony rumours that are coming out and what we're hoping the camera will be, and how we compare that to, say, the probable competition, which will be the Canon R5. So we'll talk about that as well. And then there's also some rumours from Tamron as well, which is interesting. So there's some pretty exciting things coming up in the coming days, which is great. Just a couple of comments. Quinton said, beautiful, heart goes out to George's family and should never have gotten to that, etc. So I love your intro. Did you write or commission the song? Yeah, it's from, I always forget the name of the site. I'll put it down the link down below if I can. Yeah, I've paid for it. Yeah, it's from FE Sound or whatever. It's someone might be able to remember what it is. I always forget what the name of the place is. Yes, it's paid for. So it's great. So it is. It's through a license through YouTube. What else have we got? So thanks for saying you like that, which is great. That would be nice. It would be such a great backup to my A7 III, especially when I don't want to carry my 200 to 600 millimeter lens. That's a great lens, though, but yes, it is weight. It is pretty weighty, that's for sure. Yeah, it is SteamYard. Epidemic Sound. Thank you so much for that. And thank you. Also, Oreo said as well. Yeah, it's all from Epidemic Sound, so that's what I use. This is SteamYard. And it's limited. I don't know whether it's just because I'm on the free account, whether it's 720p limited at that. It may be that if you go onto the paid version of this, that you can do 1080. I don't know. I just don't want to pay the actually, it was $350 Australian for the year. It seems like it's a really good product, though. And I would pay for it, but I just don't want to pay $350 because I also use Ycast, which is what I normally use. But I do love how I can bring up your comments on the screen on this. So, that's interesting as well. I mean, I think it's the Aussie dollar too kills you at the moment. I think it's about $220 United States, but it ends up being about $350 Australian if I want to pay for this for the 12 months. I'll just see how it goes for a while. If I really find that it's worthwhile, well, then I may go on to the paid version. I think the paid version just gives me the option of getting rid of that Powered by SteamYard logo that you're seeing up there. And also, I think you can add more guests in. At the moment, I can only add one in. That's why Aaron and myself can use it. Yeah, it's interesting. Langston says he also has 720p. Are you on the paid account, Langston, though? I'm just curious. It's whether, but the thing is too, we've had Aaron and myself, if you watch our show, we always had trouble with the sync and stuff because we have to use Skype into, say, Wirecast or something like that. And every time we had lip sync issues and all these horrible things going on where the show that we did last on Tuesday, it was perfect. We had no problems with the lip sync. It all went really, really great. So, it's really interesting. So I'm just going to see how it goes. So yes, I'm on the paid YouTube plan. Okay. All right. So there's no ads on it, but it's still limited to 720. Okay. It must be that they think that is better for the bandwidth, obviously, that they won't have any issues. But 720p is fine for a live stream. I'm quite comfortable with that. So, it should be fine. So, all right, so let's get stuck into this today because I want to go through some things with you. So let me put down, what are we on, 14:30, because we've got stacks of stuff to talk about. So let me see if I can share this web page. I'll just move that over there. The song is called Loving Calibre. It's Waterslide. If anyone is interested in what that song is, that let me just show. Oh, thank you so much, Jeff. Song is from Loving Calibre and it's called Waterslide. That's the one at what I showed at the start there. So let me go share screen and I'll bring up this page. I mean, in a lot of ways, when I'm doing this, like I prefer the way Wirecast works in some aspects. Like I can blow the image up and do a lot of other different things, but it seems to be that's working okay. So I just thought that I'd take you all through it and see how it goes. Now, let's have a look. So Sony Alpha Rumours have posted this morning about they're saying it's now getting serious. They're going to have 2 cameras and at least 1 lens to be announced in June. And someone posted, I think, earlier that they've heard it's only in a couple of weeks or so. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens in that regard. But it looks like, well, obviously we've just had the ZV-1 that has just been announced yesterday or the day before, I think it was. And I had a discussion with that about Aaron. So if you wanted to check that out, you could go back and look at Aaron and my show that we did the other day, because we sort of went through it about how we felt about that camera. It looks like it's going to be a great camera if you're dealing with just vlogging. I did discuss with it that I thought the lens wasn't quite wide enough for vlogging. But overall, like, they've done some things that I'm excited about the future, which is now the flip out screen, and they may be able to bring that into, the full frame format. Now that they've done it, I'm hoping that's the case. So we'll wait and see what happens there, but I'm really hoping that that's what's going to happen. But this new one that's just come out. Now, how do I get both of those back on? This is where I'm just learning. I wonder how I can put me back. Oh, hang on. Let me just remove it, and then I'll add myself back in again. This is where I'm still learning how to do this. Add to stream. Let me see. What does that do? No, I'm going to remove it. Oh, it doesn't matter. How do I put both back? See, I can get me there, but I want to, hang on. Do I go like that? No, that makes it small. This is where I'm trying to learn how to use this, because I turned me onto full screen and now I can't get it back. Let me delete it. I'm going to stop sharing and I'll add it back in. Application window, that one. All right, so here we are. So Sony Alpha Rumours have put a thing up to say that there's going to be 2 cameras. Now, they're predicting one is going to be the A7S III, obviously, but we don't know what the other camera is going to be. So this is quite interesting in itself, because I'm not sure what the other one could be. Is it going to be a real low-ended camera, or is it going to be so? Surely they would not release an A7 IV and the A7S III at the same time. I mean, you can let me know too in the chat whether you think that's possible, but I don't know. But it's interesting. So I really can't see. I really can't see them releasing those 2 cameras at the same time, because in some ways they may compete with one another. I mean, I'm not sure, but they may. It depends what they offer in an A7 IV, what video features that they offer is against what they say offer in the A7S III. So at the moment, Sony Alpha Rumours are saying that they believe it's going to be the A7S II successor. There's going to be another camera which they're not saying what it is. And then they're also saying there's going to be a lens announced, which is going to be the 12 to 24 GM. So, yeah, it's interesting. Now, I hope that it is an A7S III announcement that comes up, but I'm still not convinced that it might not be an A7 IV. Gilbert just said down here, I think he just said that they should hold off on that. So it's going to be interesting to see which way they go. I think it probably will be an A7S announcement now. Now, the reason why I'm saying this is because of what's just happened with the Canon announcement that, with the R5. And I'm going to talk about that in a minute, about what I think Sony need to offer as against or to compete, or to be at least competitive against the R5. So I thought that I'd sort of talk about that. And there's some interesting things that I can show you in that regard as well. I also wanted to show you something about the screen too, but I think I've closed that, so I might see if I can get that back and show you up. There was an interesting thing that Tony Northrup showed the other day about that as well. So let me just see if I can add another tab in, because I want to just see if I can get that up. because I closed it up. Let me go back to Tony Northrop. And let me just open up this. Let me just pause it because I don't want to be playing audio on that. And then let me just scroll to where they showed this. Where was it? I think it was just about here. Okay, so I thought this was the perfect example. So I'm going to show this on the screen. I thought this was the perfect example to show you what Sony have to do in one way to compete. And this was a little bit also about what I felt about the Z1, the new camera that came out, the Z1, the ZV1. I wanted to show you this because I wanted to show you the difference in how these screen technologies tend to work with the EOS R at the moment as against what Sony cameras are working on. So let's just have a look, and I'll just show this for a second. I mean, I don't know whether I'm allowed to do this or not, but I don't know, but I'm going to play it anyway. So this is Tony Northrop's video. I'll put the link down to this on the bottom anyway, so you can have a look if you want to check out the whole video. But if we look at this, you can see how beautiful that the Canon EOS R screen works. It's fully touchable in the interface and everything that you want to do. Now, particularly if you want to move something to the front, it's a massive advantage about being able to do that instead of, say, working the way Sony is here, where you're working blind and trying to move everything from the back. And like I said, I'll just play that again. So it really is unbelievable when you start to use that type of interface compared to what the Sony interface is at the moment. And like I've discussed with you before, is that when I recently tried Jurgen, so I had a go of his EOS R, the screen difference was drastic. I mean, I'm not talking a little bit different. It was like really drastic. I think it's double the resolution compared to what the Sony cameras are. And also it's got a full touch interface. So I was a little bit disappointed with the ZV announcement that it never had the touch interface on it. I'm just hoping that the next announcement that comes out, or the next camera that comes out now, whether it's the A7 IV or whether it's the A7S III, that it does finally have that touch interface, because there's no excuse for Sony not to do that. Sometimes I am a bit... I am a perfectionist, and I demand a lot from Sony, and I know that, but I just don't drink the Kool-Aid or whatever you'd like to say about it. And I always say about it how I feel it should be. And I think Sony have held back too long on the video, on the screen side of things. So I'm just hoping that they finally wake up to that and they bring out a new interface similar to what the Z series Nikon cameras are doing, what the EOS R cameras are doing, etc. So that's one thing that I think they've got to really produce to make the camera better. Now, I'm not saying the menus are that bad. I don't find the menus that bad because I know them so well now. And with the quick keys and everything, and the custom keys, I think the interface is fine on the Sony cameras. But it would be great to be able to have the option to change things quickly with a touch screen rather than having to go through your buttons and things like that. It is a lot easier to do it that way. And I think it's like Langston said here that you are so correct, David. It's 2020. They need to step up the screen game. There's no reason my Blackmagic has a better screen and it costs $700 less than the Sony. And I think this is true. Like, they now have to wake up to that fact that it is 2020. We know Sony can do it because they make great phones. They make terrific phones which have amazing touch interfaces. So there's no excuse for doing it. I've just got a feeling that they had a stack of these screens somewhere in a factory, and they're just going to use them up until they've got none left. But it's like Michael said, I'm so used to Sony's crappy screens, I might go into shock if they give us a new type of screen. So it's interesting, but I think it's very important. It is really important that you have that type of touch interface. So that's one thing. But let's go back to this document, because then I'm going to talk about what we need sort of to compare or to compete with the R5. They're also saying there might also be some more E-mount lenses coming, but they haven't got any rumors or information on that yet. They're saying too that the Canon EOS R5 and A7S II successor might not be direct competitors. And this is something too that I probably do agree with, that they may not be competing against each other. I'm not sure that Sony wants to go after the 8K, and it's not. I would like it, but it's not really needed at this stage. If we have to be completely honest about the situation, 8K footage is not really needed yet at this stage. It's good if they can do it without compromises, and I'm still not certain how Canon are going to do that, because apparently their body doesn't have vents or anything like that in it. So it's going to be interesting. And I keep hearing, I'm not sure whether they mentioned that even here, but I keep hearing too that the A7S is going to have a vent in it, the A7S III. So that's interesting as well. So I don't think we need 8K, but let's keep reading to see what they say here. So they're saying it may not be a direct comparison. They're saying that the EOS R5 is more like the A7R4. What else have we got? Keep in mind that the EOS it was here that I read it. Keep in mind that the EOS R5 has no cooling vent like the Panasonic SH1, because if you look at the SH1, that does have a cooling vent, and then now that's due to the fact of how much you've got to try and keep that sensor cool. So whether Canon has got around that somehow, and they've done something, some voodoo magic in there, or the processor is running really, really really good in the heat, sort of getting that heat away. It's interesting to see what they've done. So let's keep going on this anyway. I love it. I'm demand. They said, I'm holding out a prayer that Sony has firmware update like the FX9 to get a full touch screen. Let's keep going down. So they're saying in here that despite all the heat in the magic, to dissipate all the heat in a magic way, the EOS R5 isn't capable of long hours of work. And that's what they're saying in here. Is the EOS R5 capable of being kept on that recording for a long time? I would probably think no. I would think that there's going to be a limit to the amount of time that you can run the EOS R5 in 8K. I'll be amazed if it's not. But let's be completely frank about this. Who's going to be running 8K for an hour? I mean, you just would not do it at this stage, because the file sizes are going to be horrendous. They're going to be massive to work with. So I wouldn't be disappointed at all if the EOS R5 had a time limit of 5 minutes on that. I think that would be acceptable. I've said to you that I would even be happy if the A7S III has 4K 60 with a time limit on it as well, because I shoot such short lengths. 10 to 15 seconds is my average time for shooting. So I don't think that's really a problem. What else do they say? As a professional video camera, it's likely to not go after the eye-catchy, but at the end, useless 8K spec. Professional 4K capabilities and performance is more likely to be the key of the camera's success. So what they're saying here is that they don't think that the A7S III is going to go after the EOS R5. Sony may not even be capable of doing that at this stage. We don't know what development that Canon's put into the R5. So it looks like they may tailor the A7S III to be more workable like for videographers, where it's not going to overheat and you'll have other features like that. It's going to be interesting to see how they both compare when they're both announced. I mean, we're sort of still guessing a little bit at this stage, but it's certainly interesting when you talk about that. So there's also saying that Sony's big advantage, it isn't necessarily leading the pack and doesn't have to guess what the competition is doing. Now, what they're saying there is because the EOS R5 has already been, the specs have already been announced. So they don't have to guess any longer about what they're competing against. So that is really an important factor here, that Sony now do have that. And like I've said, you'd be amazed also what can be done in firmware and things like that if they needed to. But they do have to sooner or later come out with a camera, that will be at least compete in that marketplace of the 4K 60 and the bigger bit depths and things like that. But we'll look at the specs shortly as well. Sony knows the EOS R5 specs. Sony knows the rumored price tag will be below $4,000, and I'll talk about that in a second, because now it's sort of been confirmed that it is going to be below $4,000. I think that was the case. I picked all along it would be sort of 3.5 to 4. Most of you are saying no, to be way more than that, but I still believe that's the case, that it's going to be sort of around 3,500 to 4,000 United States dollars. So that will give you a it should give you an idea about where the A7S III will be priced at. It's going to have to compete in that same price range. So, you know, that's interesting in itself. If Sony's marketing is smart, they will price the A7S II successor accordingly to be competitive in the video business. They have to. There's no way if Canon bring this camera out that they can then price the A7S much more expensive than that. That would be crazy if Sony did that, and I don't think they would do that. I mean, they've done the right thing with the that ZV-1. They've priced that under the price of the RX cameras, basically, that it's replaced. And it's come up at a very competitive price. What is it, $750, I think, is where it should be. So it's interesting. So they may be coming in a little bit more competitive in their pricing. So we've got to wait to see that. So let's look at the specs, and then we'll look at what the Canon has. And I'll sort of say, yeah, what I think I would be happy with as a Sony user, you know, to stay with the Sony camera in this regard. So it's saying, here is the little we know so far. So 100% sure. So they're saying this is 100% sure that it will definitely have 4K 60, 10-bit 422. Now, if it doesn't have that, I can tell you I will be buying the Canon EOS R5 when I can afford it. Not for a while, but I will definitely be buying the Canon EOS R5 if they don't at least give 4K 60, 10-bit 422. If they do, I'll be happy with that. And I'll discuss that, you know, in a few minutes when we look at the Sony camera. The Canon, I mean. Some features will go beyond expectations. Now, this is really interesting because what can be now beyond expectations? And I'd love you guys to chime in too. What do you think they could give us that would be beyond expectations? I mean, one could be perhaps to have a completely functional variable ND. And what I'm talking about there is, instead of like the one in the ZV-1, which is I think only a 3-stop one, you know, if they gave us a 10-stop variable ND filter in the camera, that would put it past expectations, because they haven't done it in any of the, you know, the A series cameras before. We know it's in the FX9, but it's not in any of the A series cameras. Global shutter, like Brown has said, yes, exactly, that would be. And also that gets rid of things like rolling shutter and things like that. So that would be another great one as well that they could bring up with. Shush, Siri, she's listening to me. Michelle, I just put in there. I was one who thought the R5 would be way more money, but I'm so happy to be wrong. Yeah, it seems like it does seem to be that it's confirmed that it's going to be under $4,000. That seems to be the way it is at this stage. So global shutter, yes, would be one. So that's one thing that could be there. Like I said, a variable ND. 4K 120 could be beyond expectations if it is completely usable. And what I mean by that is if it has face detection, if it has audio that will go into it, and the quality is exceptionally good. If you could do that internal on the camera, get 4K 120 with audio, with perfect focusing, with face detection and everything else, that would go beyond expectations as well. So that's another thing that you could think could be great. And also 42 Pros down here gave an interesting one, said maybe 240 frames per second, no crop with AF and audio recording. So you've gone one step even closer than what I said, which was, you know, 140 or so. Or is it 190? I always forget what that is. So you're saying 240 frames per second, no crop, AF, audio recording, global shutter, 20 frames per second. That certainly would exceed expectations. So Sony may be doing something here. The thing that they may be doing that they might blow everyone out is it might be a generational leap in lens or LCD, basically like the A9 was. So it could give us a sensor like what the A9 was. It might be incredibly fast. There may be no rolling shutter, incredible autofocus. That could be the thing that exceeds expectations as well. So that's another thing that could quite possibly come out. But I'm struggling to find much more about that. Maybe raw internal, but that's sort of, I think that now is done. Or is it all, Ike maybe will help me. I know with the R series cameras, I think you can only go to raw externally. I'm not sure if the Panasonics can do it. Langston may be able to help me. Langston, can the Panasonics do RAW internal? So if some of these cameras are doing RAW internally, well, then it's not really beyond expectations. So, it's got to be something that really is, amazing, that you'd think, wow, it's blown something away, like that 200 frames per second. Yeah, 120. Well, the reason, Dave, just let me answer this. Why would you want audio on 120 frames per second? There's a reason why it's actually important. It's important for me. And it's like when I use 4K 60, for instance. If, remember, as a fusion photographer where I'm shooting video and stills at the same time, occasionally I'll shoot in something like one of the higher frame rates to get a shot that I'm going to slow down. But I'm also shooting another camera angle as well, just in case. Now, if something happens with that other camera angle and then I lose audio and everything, I'm basically stuffed. So what I would like here is to have the ability to capture the audio in case if I need it. That's the only reason why I'm saying that I would want audio in the higher frame rates. It's only a way of protecting what you're recording in case if you want to slow that down and use it as normal footage. Or use it as normal footage, I should say. And that's the only reason why, I'm saying that. So it's important for me that it does keep the audio in there. Blackmagic RAW does shoot to the, okay, so it does do it to the SD card, Langston. Thanks for sharing that. Okay. What else have we got? I'm just seeing here. Oreo saying, let's not forget that the Beyond Expectations quote is about 2 years old. Yeah, and they might have changed that since then, Oreo. You may be right that was brought out so long ago now that Sony Alphas are bringing it up, and we just don't know now if that's true. It might have been at the case, what they were working on at that time probably did do that, but it may not be the case anymore. Let's also have a look down here. I love this from Langston, be raw or bust. I love it. What else? So 100% sure Beyond Expectations, 100% sure, and of course, more battery power, increased AFX accuracy, and many things. So, well, you would expect that, but it's getting to the point where I never any longer worry about autofocus, like particularly with the A9. I just don't have to worry about the autofocus anymore. If they could put that type of system directly into the A7S, boy, it's going to be fantastic. It's almost going to get to the point where you won't need to use manual focus at all, unless there's a reason why, like I said, you're doing a slider shot and you want it to reveal and you didn't want it to sort of jump between the foreground and the background. There you would still do manual focus. But I very rarely use manual focus anymore. It's nearly always for me autofocus, unless there's a reason, like I said, with a slide shot or something like that, or if it was grabbing the wrong bit of focus. So that's where I would use that. Just want to see what Michael said here. I'm in the 4K 60 422 plus, the normal features that Sony cameras already have. I'm good. And if they put an ND inside, I'm selling everything. Wife, kids first, laugh out loud. I love it. That's a classic of a statement. What's this one? It would be great to have streaming features like direct streaming to YouTube, or use a webcam without OBS Elgato. I mean, you're seeing a lot of that now. They're coming up with the USB features for the cameras. But remember, everything I've ever seen on that, the quality is never as good as when you're using HDMI. But if they did put decent Wi-Fi in these things and you could do it, it's possible. But I don't know. It's probably never going to work like a phone until they can put a SIM card actually into the phone. But who knows? Let's see what else they're saying. Rumored the prototype camera recorder 4K 120 and no 8K recording. Well, I haven't got an issue with that. I think that's fine. Like I said, I'd still be happy with 4K 60. That's all I need. I don't need 4K 120. It'd be nice if I got it, but I don't need it. Rumored the prototype camera was much thicker and had a cooling event. Now, these aren't 100%, so the others were 100%. These are only rumors at this stage. And another rumor, same kind of A9 improvements, AF, build quality, weather sealing. Well, that would be expected now. I would expect any camera that comes out now to have the same body as what the A9 II and the A7R4 has. You would expect that now for the complete range, but I would love to see it with that fully articulating screen. So let's hope that it has that fully articulating screen now that also has that touch interface. And it says, in summary, do not expect 100% EOS R5 camera clone. The A7S successor is going to clearly be a professional video-orientated camera for pro use. And that's the thing. We're not saying that the R5 isn't a pro camera. Remember, it is a pro camera, but I think what they're saying here is it's for different markets. The EOS R5 is meant to be the 5D Mark IV replacement, I suppose you could say, whereas that was sort of a camera that would be used for stills and also for video. Great video camera, but it was sort of more of a camera that will do both. The way that it's sounding to me is that this camera is probably going to be a lower megapixel type camera. It's probably around 15 megapixels. And therefore, it's going to be more specifically tailored to shooting video. I think that's probably what they're sort of hinting at here. If you wanted to go for the camera that will give you more of the stills and the video, then you go for the A7 Mark IV, which probably will have 4K 60. It may not have the higher bit depths and things like that. It may not have those more high-end features that the A7S will have. So, it's going to be interesting. Let me just see what this was. Tony said, David, in my opinion, that quote from Sony, exceed expectations may well be only a marketing strategy that doesn't mean anything. What are the expectations and compared to what? Interesting. Dwayne, Jim's also here. Hi, Jim. How are you? Michael said, I hope they put the Venice look will also be great. Yeah, that would be fantastic. That may be, I would probably expect that to come in the A7S III. It may not be in the A7 IV, Michael, but it would be certainly something that I think they probably would put in the A7S III. Remember, the A7S III, and this is what I've said to you before, is that I don't think they compete against each other. I'm talking about the A7S III and the FX9. They would be a great combination to work together with the A7S III as the B camera to the FX9. If they had that same color science that was built into there, it would be amazing. So, I don't think that would take away sales at all from what Sony have got there now. I think, in fact, it would just enhance that side of things. There's still reasons why you would buy an FX9, attaching your XLR camera microphones directly to the camera, having that ability to hook to use all the hard drives and everything. Yes, you can do that with an A7 series with your cages and stuff like that, but it's still nowhere near as workable as it is if you have, say, something like an FX9 or something like that. So, and if you're working in a professional environment, they're probably expecting to see something like an FX9 as well. So that's another issue that you sort of have to think about as well. They want all that interface there. They want the ability to be able to, grab microphones in, take things off that and do everything else and change around quickly and work in a professional manner. So I don't think they're really competing against one another. I think they're in different markets, and whether Sony have finally woken up to that aspect of it is going to be interesting to sort of see. What have we got there? NDI network device interface should be included in all your cameras for wireless streaming. Good point. That could be interesting as well. They certainly seem to be going around that area. So let me just compare. So they're saying it's not going to be a direct sort of clone of the Canon EOS R5. It's going to be a professional video-orientated camera. I expect the Sony A7R 5, well, I think that's meant to be A7 V, or the mystical A9R to outspec the EOS R5. So that's obviously not going to be for a while, and they're saying they don't think that will be in 2020. So that's interesting as well. And they're saying before the A7 IV or the A9R, we shall get this mysterious second camera by the end of June or early July, and likely new A7 IV by the end of 2020. So that's what they're saying there as add to the stream. Let me just hide that. I'll work out how to do this eventually. So it's interesting. And in a way, I sort of agree with what they're saying, that I do believe that it's probably not going to outspec the R5, and I don't think it will. And I'll bring up the specs in a minute just so that you can see what I'm talking about with the R5. But I think if they spec this well enough and it's a really robust camera and it does great 4K 60 with 10-bit 422, I'm going to be happy with that. and I think it will be great. So I'm hoping that's what goes on. I'm just seeing what Mike said here. I swear, as soon as Sony releases the A7S specs, I can't wait. David, you better stream the announcement. It's going to be a fun show with all of this anticipation. I know, but if they don't do the right thing, Ike, everyone's going to hate me again because I'm going to be disappointed. What's that noise? Where is it? No, not that one. I don't want to be doing that again. Oh, I can't stand it, honestly. So it looks interesting. Now, let me just show you the R5, just so you're sort of looking at that. Let me just stop the sharing on that, and let me share the screen again, and I'll bring up the R5. Because let's look at this. So the R5, they are now saying that the body is going to be below $4,000. So, and this now keeps coming up. Remember, there was a thing recently on and the price was around about $6,000, but that was in Australia, and that was only apparently a placeholder. What they do is when they advertise something, they just put a placeholder so they can get it online. It shouldn't have been put there, but that price wasn't real. And Canon basically said that. They said that they believed it was a placeholder that was just going on there. So it looks like it's going to be below 4,000. And like I said, between 3,500 and 4,000, and they're still saying announced sometime in July. And that's what's happening. Now, if you look at the specs here, let's just look at it quickly. There's not much to look at, but they're saying that it will be below $4,000, 8K raw internal video, and recording up to 29.97 frames per second. 8K internal video recording up to 422 10-bit Canon log, and it's also got HDR PQ, so they've got all the logs and stuff like that. 4K internal recording up to 119.88, so that's your 120. 422 10-bit Canon log, etc. And also 4K external recording is available up to 4K 60. So if you wanted 4K 60, you've got to go external. No crop in 8K. And 4K capture using the full width of the sensor. Dual pixel CMOS AF available in all 8K and 4K recording modes. Canon log in 8K and 4K recording. A Canon first, the EOS R will feature 5-axis in-body stabilization, which works in conjunction with optical IS equipped lenses. And we know for a fact that works really well. If you look at the EOS R stabilization, it does definitely kill anything that Sony's got in stabilization. So that's going to be an interesting one to see how they compare with that. Dual card slots, one CF Express and one SD UHS 2, and announced sometime in July. So what can Sony do about this, for instance? Well, I don't think they can do anything about the 8K. I don't think Sony at this stage is capable of tackling the 8K that you're looking at there. But I do believe it's possible that we could get 6K. And it's definite. I definitely think we're definitely going to get 4K 60 and maybe 4K 120. But there is a possibility we may get 6K out of that. And I think that, like I said, I'd be happy with that. If that was the case, I don't need 8K or anything, need that at this stage. I will be completely happy if I get 4K 60 and 4K 120 is a bonus. So that's fine. Also, the bit depths have to be improved. We definitely need to at least have 10-bit 422. If they don't give that, I'll be really disappointed and we'll be getting that sound that I just played a couple of minutes ago. Obviously, if I'm hoping there's no crop involved, like what Canon have said that they're not having any cropping involved at all. So that's also something as well. The R5 is meant to be below $4,000. So that's what they're saying as the price is going to be below $4,000. So just to let you know there. 6K full frame, yes, it's a possibility. I mean, they may do that. We already know that the sensor in the Sony cameras, the latest ones, is downsampled from 6K. So there is a possibility that we may get a 6K camera. Well, we don't know. That is definitely possible. Let me just put that actual size again. So that's definitely possible. And is there anything else? The stabilization, I'm not sure if Sony can do anything about that much at this stage. I definitely think I may be able to know if he's tried the stabilization in the Z series cameras. But I know on the EOS R cameras, the stabilization particularly is better than what Sony have got at this stage. it's much better actually. So that's interesting, and they may be able to do something there as well. Dual card slots. It would be great if Sony could use something like CF Express as well as SD UHS2. I'm not sure if that's going to be the case. But it would be interesting. I think, look, yes, CF Express are expensive, but they're much quicker, much more robust. And if you're dealing with getting files off that camera very quickly, you know, if you were, say, shooting raw video, something like that, you do need a way to get those files off that card or onto the card very, very quickly. And CF Express gives that. So I'm hoping they do move away from just using SD cards and at least give us one of those, which sort of will be competing. And if they're going to a slightly larger body, which appears to be the case, I don't think that's a problem. I mean, I think that's probably not an issue at all. So, I mean, you know, let me know what you think about that. Do you think it's an issue that if they didn't have CF Express, would you like them to keep the, you know, SD UHS2 cards in? I mean, it's interesting in itself. IBIS, I'm not that fussed about because, look, I'd love it to be better and I would love it so I could just handhold better, but I've nearly always got it on a gimbal anyway. So that to me is not a killer feature. I can't see myself really hand-holding, doing vlogging and things like that because it's too heavy. It needs to be on a gimbal that I can hold it on the handle. So I'm not too worried about that. And I can get decent footage, video footage, even with the latest Sony A9 and A7 III because I'm now used to it and I've practiced it and I'm fairly good at it. But I would like it to be like the Canon EOS R, but I don't think that's going to happen. Yeah, so let me know what you think about those because I think it's interesting. I think looking at it that Sony aren't going to directly challenge the R5, and that's been pointed out on both of them. I'm hoping that Sony match the price of the R5, which is that between $3,500 and $4,000. If they do that, that would be terrific, and I think they'd be silly not to match that sort of price range. And it looks like Canon are going to announce this after Sony, so that's going to be interesting. But we know for sure now, because these have been released for quite a while, what the specs of the Canon is actually going to be. But the possibilities at this stage, we may get 6K. I think we'll definitely get 4K 60. We should definitely get 10-bit. Bonuses is we get 4K 120. And with audio in all of those motions or that footage as well, which, like I said, there's a reason why I'd like that in case if it's desperately needed that you've got audio there that you can use. So that's important for me as well. The better body, obviously, I think they have to go up in size, and they'll probably have to do that due to heat. I think if they keep in the normal body that they've got now, they're going to have heat issues. But I think the body is probably going to stay the same as what the A7 IV and the A9 is. It may just be slightly bigger than that. So it should sort of stay similar to that, which is, you know, which is going to be interesting. The fold-out rear screen, I'm hoping like crazy that Sony now give us that they've proven they can do it in the ZV-1. So I'm hoping that's the case. And I really do hope that they use a better screen. Sony have to get by from using that screen that's been out for the last 5 years. If they put that in, I won't be happy. So I'm hoping the screen is better, and I'm hoping that they give us a decent touch interface. So that's interesting. Now, they might be things that they put in extra compared to the, say, the A7 IV. The A7 IV, yeah. The A7 IV may still have the older screen, unfortunately, and it may not have a touch interface. They might give us all of these bells and whistles with the A7S III, and that could be, you know, the way it is. So, I mean, who knows? It's certainly, it's getting interesting though, and it's getting a little bit exciting because we should find out fairly soon what's going to happen. You know, that June's next month, in a couple of days away. So who knows when this is going to drop? So, you know, it looks like it's going to be interesting. And also, obviously, no crop is also important. I'm hoping that we do get the full width of the sensor. Exciting times. I mean, it is exciting. And then, you know, I'm not going to have to go out and buy the R5 because I don't want to. What did Michael say there? Just be ready for overheating and fried circuit board, guys. It's Sony, laugh out loud. Oh, I love it. All right. And what I wanted to show you too was the last one was just this. Let me share this screen. What time are we on now? 55. can't believe I've talked for 55 minutes on that. I'll get abused again. Let me just click on this. Add to screen. So this one is interesting because Tamron, I asked last night, I put out a feeler and said, what's the lens going to be? And they just laughed at me. They just sent back laugh out loud. I said, you can tell me and I won't tell anyone. Because I thought, well, you never know, I can try. So I sent it off to Tamron and said, just tell me, just between you and me, what's this new lens going to be? And all I got was a laugh out loud. So I can't tell you what it is. So it looks like they have teased it. So they've teased a new lens here. Let me just see if I can play that. So it looks like it's going to be coming soon. I don't think they've put down dates yet. Now, the interesting thing is it looks almost exactly the same size as the 28 to 75. If you look at it, this is the 28 to 75 here. It's got an almost exact profile of what the 28 to 75 is. So this is interesting. And we'll just quickly look at what they're saying. They're saying that it's a versatile zoom lens, so it's not going to be a 2.8 lens, obviously. It's going to be something else, so it's probably going to be a variable one. And unfortunately, we don't have much information. All we know that we can get from their shot, teaser below, the blacked out coming soon image, and from Tamron's new Sony E-mount webpage, that it's going to feature an E-mount series of lenses. It's going to be lightweight and compact, short minimum focus object distance. They're always great in their almost macro ability. So that's one fantastic thing about this. It's also saying a relatively high magnification ratio, unified 67 millimeter filter thread. So they're going to keep with the 65 millimeter filter thread, and that's fantastic because I love that aspect of it. When I change between the lenses, I can use the same NDs through the whole lot. Designed to take full advantage of Sony's full-frame mirrorless cameras. So whatever this lens ends up being, it'll be lightweight and compact. It's jumped up again. This stupid Apple mouse. I hate the way it does it. And compact. And they're also saying down here that they think it might be an affordable 24 to 105 f4, or better, something like the 24 to 120 f4. That would be one heck of a do everything travel zoom lens. So it's pretty exciting. I mean, I love the sound of the 24 to 105 f4 and also the 24 to 120 f4 as well. If it is that, like I said, that same lightweight lens, the same filter as I've got with my other lenses, really interesting. So who knows? I mean, obviously, whenever this comes out, I'll get it to test for you guys. Again, probably before it's released. So I'll let you know the second that I hear anything. But I mean, Tamron at this stage are really starting to kick, a few goals. So it's interesting what's happening in that regard. And I think we're going to see many, many more lenses from Tamron in the coming months. I think we'll probably end up getting some of the other great lenses they produce. Some of their longer lenses would also be great if they could put those directly to the E-mount and things like that. So, it's going to be interesting. I mean, Tony's saying there perhaps a 180 to 300. Michael's saying the 18 to 110 f4. So it's interesting to see what people are saying. David, do you think that Sony will release the A7 while the A7R is still being sold? Might have the specs that surpass. Well, who knows? I mean, I'm not sure what they're going to do in that regard. It is going to be interesting to see what happens there. I don't know. Who knows? It'll be interesting. They don't seem to worry about that, though. I think Sony have to consolidate their lenses, their lineup a little bit, though. I do think that Sony have to start cutting down the amount of cameras that are sort of there, due to the fact that it does get a little bit confusing. And like I've sort of mentioned to you before, that with camera sales really struggling, they might take sales off other cameras that, are there. So they may start to consolidate the lineup a little bit, and I think that probably would make more sense as well. My 135 and 24 GM have been orphaned for way too long, sleeping giants, waiting for Sony to finally release my dream camera, the 7S. I'm a frontline worker, so I've been working hard from day to day and by away. Oh, well, thank you for your work, mate, as well. Nexus is saying the 28-200 is there. He's thinking. Was hoping for a less expensive 100-400. From the size of it, it must be much shorter range. Yeah, it's hard to say, isn't it? Because of the like I said, it's the same size that the 28-75 is. So yeah, who knows? So I don't know how much they can get in that. That's why I think it's probably more of a chance it will be around that, 24 to 105 or 120, whatever. I'm thinking it'll be more around this sort of focal length, 24 to 120, something around that area, that it's going to be. I don't think it could be much longer than that due to the fact of the size that it is, unless it has this incredible barrel that will come out. But who knows? Michelle said, I would like to see them release a APS 18-400 travel lens for E-mount. It's a great travel camera for crop cameras. They may release some of those, Michelle. They seem to be concentrating more at this stage on the full frame, though. But, that may potentially happen. If it's the 24 to 120 f4 and it is the same quality optics as the other Tamron lenses, I might be tempted to sell my Sony Zeiss 24-105 f4 and my Tamron 70 to 180 2.8. Dwayne said, anyone have the Leica Deluxe 7? Thinking about buying one used. No, I've never used that, so can't say anything about that. Sigma 200 is still we haven't heard much more anything else about it. We know it's coming, Andre. We just don't know when that's coming. We're just waiting at this stage to see when that will come out. Obviously, it's going to be a fantastic lens. Sigma release amazing glass. You just have to be aware it is going to be a big honking lens. But if you don't mind carrying that weight around, it's going to be brilliant. So, yeah. I'm just laughing at this comment. My beard is down to my shoes waiting on the A7S3. I love it. 300 f4. Don't think so, but who knows? Oreo said, I would love a 35 to 135 f4 lens, perfect for studio portraits. See, everyone wants different things. It's interesting. That would be perfect for studio portraits, so that's for sure. If it was a 24 to 120 f4 and it is the same quality optics as I've already read that one. So now, by the way, let me just show you this. I'll just show you the image that I put up yesterday. Show you a video that's coming up that I've just done of Kiara, just so that you can see it. And this is why I love my 135. Let me just share this application window. This was one that I took of Kiara yesterday. So this image we did of Kiara yesterday in the studio, I have filmed this. So stay tuned for that video. I'll try. It'll probably be up sometime next week. I've got to put the video in and edit it. All I've done is this sneak peek at this stage about what I've done. But this was shot with the 24, with the 135 millimeter, and it was on the A7 III. So stay tuned for that coming up. It's a beautiful video. Kiara has been asking me to. She wanted to do something a bit more mature now that she's over 18, and she wanted to do something a little bit more mature, a little bit more sexy. So we've done a shoot around that line. And I love the results of the images that have come out. So stay tuned for that. Michael said, David, you're doing a photo, Miak. It's not that, well, I mean, it could have been, but she was covered. It's implied nude. So I couldn't see, see anything. So that was good. So it's more implied nude. So But yeah, it's beautiful. The work is, I think, is gorgeous. Even though I said I've taken it myself, but she's stunning. Kiara is absolutely stunning. The lens is great. I've used a few lenses on this. I used the 135. I used the, I think I used the 55 millimeter lens, the 1.8, and I also used the 28 to 75 as well. So I've used multiple different lenses in this shoot, and she's doing some different things in different outfits, like the white shirt, you know, like the oversized white shirt, things like that. Obviously, this one has the implied naked look that's there as well. But so it's got a whole sort of stack of different things. So it's a little bit of a different shoot for me because I don't do more of the risque type shoots very often. But we've had such a great relationship that this was very comfortable for both of us. And so we just did it, and Kiara asked me to do it. So it was really fun. So stay tuned for that shoot that will be coming up in the coming days. Apart from that, we haven't, you can fire away if you've got a couple of questions before we finish. You can also put that as well. Make sure you tune in too on Tuesday next week for Aaron's and my show again. Aaron also, if you're not aware, has started his own another channel. So Aaron has started a channel where he wants to get back more into the art side of things. So if you haven't looked at that, please check with Aaron's site, because he's put up a site now where it's not going to be any hardware sort of reviews or gear reviews and things like that. He's going to concentrate solely on the art side of things. I want to get back more to shooting as well, because I haven't been able to do that because we've been under lockdown, and that's why I loved yesterday's shoot so much, because, you know, we haven't been able to do that, but we're now coming out of lockdown here in Australia. You know, that's fantastic as well. I really, really enjoyed it. So I'm going to start getting more back into that. But yeah, just be aware Aaron has another channel as well now, and we will be back with Aaron next week as well for that show. The one thing I like about the Tamron lenses is that the light transmission tends to be better than the Sigma lenses of the same focal length. Yeah, well, it was even better. Well, when I looked at the 70 to 180, it was actually, the T-stop was brighter than what the 70 to 200 f4 is. It was probably half a stop brighter. So that really is, you know, it's amazing. And that's fantastic. That's true. I was surprised. If you check the review where I did the 70 to 180, I actually showed you the T-stop difference. It really was great. Let me just open that up. So I think that is about all, guys. And obviously have a great weekend. Stay safe. Hopefully everything in the US settles down. I really feel for you guys at the moment. I really do. And I've messaged a few people and said that I'm there for them. And I'll have that open to anyone. If anyone, you know, needs, you know, to have a chat about anything, I'm always there. So hopefully you have a good weekend. Apart from that, guys, I just wanted to finish just with that so that we can end on this. Let me just share this full screen and take off the blue. Take me off. Thanks, everyone.